Hey, it's Phil's good man, and Krunker patch 1.9.0 just dropped, and I think it's got a lot of really cool features, even though people were waiting on both Season 2 with new cosmetic items, as well as matchmaking rating or MMR in ranked mode. I think we can all agree that Sid, Vince, and the rest of the Krunker team are working as hard as possible, and they also deserve a break. That's not to downplay the significance of these changes though, and if you look closely at the patch notes, there are some big ones. And in this video, I'm going to be giving you guys my opinion on what I think are the top 5 most important features of this patch. So let's get started, and these are in no particular order. So the first item on the list is changes to the ranked queue and the way that works. So previously there were individual queues for each server, but now the servers are grouped together in much larger regions. And I call this the top 5 most important features because I don't know if they're good changes or not yet. In theory, I really like this change, and that's because I really have been enjoying ranked mode so far, but previously it's been really challenging to get in a 4 versus 4 game. Obviously the downside to this is the question of fairness. So let's say that you're on US East Coast and you're queuing up with West Coast players and you get put in a West Coast server, then you're not going to have as good ping, and that will put you at a disadvantage. However, I will say that it's not too uncommon for games to have a single US server. The game developers simply don't want to split up the player base too much. You just need an active and healthy player population regardless of what type of queue you implement. The next change on the list is going to be the controller settings. So now we have a separate sensitivity for the controller as opposed to the mouse and keyboard. This is perfect because I just made a video using the controller and I've started to use the controller a lot more. So I don't have to switch profiles. I don't have to export the settings every time I want to switch control schemes. And there's also DeadZone adjustment. So that's the area at the center of the joystick where no input is registered. So adjusting this could theoretically prevent wobble. So right now I'm using the new default sensitivities for the controller as well. If you remember from my previous video, I had to drop everything down to 0.1 sensitivity in order for it to feel good. So now the default level of a value of 1 feels a lot more reasonable. So that's one improvement. I do encounter a bug where the trigger button, the fire key, is not as responsive as it was previously. It's somewhat inconsistent, but I believe that this will be fixed. Now for some dead zone testing. So dead zone value of 0. So the game responds a lot more to these like half turns, of course, because the dead zone is minimized. It's a little bit too wobbly. Next is a dead zone value of 0.15. And this feels quite good actually. I believe the default is 0.25, but this will give me a little bit more ability to do micro adjustments. Then now let's just try to max out the dead zone value. And now this kind of just feels like laggy, but if your joystick is wobbly, maybe you can use it if you need to. The next thing I want to talk about is changes to the vote kick system. So previously, if someone killed you and you suspect them of hacking, you just hit a button and it counts as a vote against that player. So now when you vote, it calls for a public vote, and other players have the option of voting them or not. There's still restrictions though, and low-level players and guests are not allowed to vote kick. And if you're high enough level, you cannot get vote kicked. I think it's good that they're testing out these features. My only concern though is it feels a bit more like a witch hunt. So when someone calls for a vote, it can kind of snowball. The other thing is that some people might just vote randomly to get rid of the notification. When I used to play Counter-Strike casual lobbies where vote kick system like this is similar, I used to kind of just vote randomly because I really didn't have enough information as to whether the person hacked or not. For now, I'm going to call this a good change because in order to beat hacking, you really have to attack it on all fronts. So of course there's the software detection, but there's also the social element. So a report system, a vote kick system where you publicly shame the hacker, I think is a step in the right direction. So next I want to talk about the chat opacity setting. And this is just another way that the developers are making it really easy to customize the UI. So it's under the editing menu and it's a slider. So the more opaque something is, the less transparent it is. So if I reduce this, you can see in the bottom left how the chat becomes more or less transparent. There's also the background. And basically the reason why you would do this is if you want to keep the UI scale like relatively high and still have things super readable, but still maintain a level of map awareness, you can lower the chat opacity to achieve that. So I do really like this feature. The last change I want to highlight is that you can now bind the shoot key. So this doesn't really matter so much for mouse and keyboard users, especially if you use left click to shoot, but it's a really important change for trackpad users. And if you remember my Chromebook video, I had a lot of trouble with the left click on the trackpad, and a lot of laptops don't have really good left clicks or right clicks. Some of them don't have separated clicks at all, so it makes it really hard. So having the ability to bind the shoot key to something, for example, like the letter B, then you can have your thumb on the trackpad, then you can use one of your other free fingers to fire the weapon. I hope you guys enjoyed my rundown of this patch, and if you like the content that you're seeing on this channel, please subscribe. Thanks so much to all my subscribers and supporters. Shout out to AgileFra for sending me the KR, and some of you have also been using my creator code in the Krunker item store, so really appreciate that. And if you do want to support this channel, you can enter code FILLS into the Krunker item shop when you purchase KR, and it will get a percentage of the revenue. So thank you guys so much.